everyone, my name is Cristelyn Chua, and today I will be talking about the midterm assessment that I wrote for this class. So the main theme of my paper was flooding and just how it relates to being a global environmental challenge. So I did title my assessment "And Ominous Glimpse into the Sinking Future," just to say how there is a huge possibility that a lot of nations will continue to sink or go underwater just because of the huge problem of flooding. So the reason why I actually chose this topic to write my paper on was because as someone who was born and raised in the Philippines, I did see firsthand how tremendous the impacts of flooding can be in different ways. So I actually was born and raised there. I moved to America about 3 years ago. And just living in California, I think that people are not as worried about flooding, or we're not really used to rain. You know, when it rains, we freak out, or it's a huge deal here. But to me, I remember days when I would have to just go through knee deep worth of flooding just because it would be really flooded. The sewage system really wasn't that good in the area that I lived in. In some provinces in the Philippines, some people would even have to make a little bit of like makeshift boats, or even use the roofs of their houses just to really get into like safer housing or safer areas during a really big typhoon or hurricane. So two or three key learnings that I learned, just how it relates to global warming and as well as climate change, was that first of all, the this flooding is actually not just a phenomena that happened all of a sudden. It's something that humans small collective actions turn into something big. So it kind of goes into a ripple effect where, if one person would be like, oh, let me throw trash here, or like, it's fine, we can just keep some of the budget. And like how some politicians would kind of keep a little bit of the budget that's supposed to be for infrastructure into other selfish reasons. So little things like that can actually add up into something big and cause a huge problem like flooding. So that is a big reason why there is a sinking problem in a place like California, where drought is actually a huge problem, ironically. Another thing that I learned was how, since infrastructures here aren't built for that type of situation, for huge flooding, like in California, we're not used to that. It really plays a huge role on how big the impacts of flooding can be. Just not only about how some people can lose their houses, how there could be forced relocation, but as well as in terms of health, overall health. Like, I did learn that due to some flooding before in America, a lot of different nations, like in Florida, I believe also in other regions of the world, there were only selective surgeries that were done, really just emergent ones. So some people weren't being treated just because of something that you wouldn't think that flooding would relate to that. Another thing is I learned is how even with the complete eradication of fossil fuels, which in many of my classes have been talked about, how this relates to rising sea levels. Fossil fuels are bad for the environment. But even with the eradication of fossil fuels, the sea levels would still continue to rise dramatically. And with this, rising sea levels do not only call for, flooding in terms of our sewage problem, but also in terms of making the severity of the storms and the typhoons in the future worse. So that is primarily what my midterm assessment was about. Thank you.